for Africa. Yeah, do it for Africa. Mama, mama, oh, le, 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 mama, oh, shake it for Africa.
Our next speaker is going to be talking about a topic that is close to my stomach and something I'm very, very passionate about. She's a candidate for the Masters of International Development Policy program, and she is very interested in food systems, food security, entrepreneurship, and urban agriculture. Before her time at Duke, she worked as a stockbroker and a community manager for a nonprofit organization. And she's a recently returned Peace Corps volunteer where she spent time in Senegal working on community economic development. She's here to talk about innovation and in agriculture and nutrition in Ghana. Please help me give a warm welcome to Jennie Davis.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that lovely introduction. My name is Jennie Davis, and I won't go into much about who I am in my past work because it's already been said already. Today, I want to talk about addressing malnutrition in Ghana. The reason why I chose this topic is because this is sort of an introduction of my master's thesis where I'm focusing specifically on a strategy for malnutrition in the capital of Ghana, which is Accra, and also the coastal regions. And also in regards to this, because malnutrition, I feel that it is, in my learning and in my experience, that it is a very unique problem. And there are three main reasons why it's a unique problem. One is because there are so many causes to malnutrition, and there's also so many solutions to malnutrition. And second, there's no right or wrong answer. There's only good answers, bad answers, or unfortunately worse, even worse answers. And then finally, as a future policymaker, you don't have the luxury of being wrong in this. Because for one, the consequences are dire and people's lives are at stake. So the goal of my presentation is to first and foremost do a brief introduction of Ghana, also highlight why nutrition is important for society, the effects of malnutrition and also the effects of ineffective policy, a brief overview of malnutrition in Ghana, so some of the top indicators of malnutrition, some of the interventions that Ghana has done in the past and what works and what hasn't worked. And then at the heart of this, I'll talk about why malnutrition is still a problem and also some possible policy solutions. So starting with a little bit about Ghana. So I don't think it was mentioned in the actual introduction, but I was actually born there. I was born in Tamale, Ghana, which is right up there in the north, if you can see. And my mother's family actually comes from Gambaga, which is so small it's not even on this map. But that's where they come from. And so right around the time I was 1 year old, well, actually, let me take a step back. So my father, he's an American citizen. He actually was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ghana. That's how he met my mother. They fell in love, and then I'm the result. So I owe my life to Peace Corps, literally, and so do my sisters. And so that's the reason why I'm focusing a lot of time, energy, and money into finding out how malnutrition has affected Ghana. Ghana is the 9th largest economy in Africa, which is very amazing. The population is about 27 million people, not 27 people. The population is split between those living in rural areas and also in urban areas. And also, as most West African nations, agriculture is the backbone of their economy. And since 1991, the poverty level has been cut in half, which is actually very remarkable. And so I'm going to dive into a little bit about why nutrition is important. So I won't spend too much time on these slides, but basically this was taken from the Global Nutrition Report from 2016. And basically this slide shows that nutrition feeds into 12 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So nutrition is a very big deal in terms of development and human development. And with this slide, I won't dwell too much into this, but basically this is sort of a cycle on how undernutrition can affect one's life. So starting from the top, if you can see the baby who is born with low birth weight, he or she will have an increased chance of either passing away or impaired mental development. And then he or she will grow up to be a child that is stunted or wasted due to all these other negative factors. And then they'll continue to grow stunted. And then if this baby is a woman, she will eventually become pregnant and then give birth to a malnourished child, and then the cycle continues. And so now I'll dive in a little bit into malnutrition in Ghana. And so from the Global Nutrition Report again, so they have highlighted 9 different indicators of malnutrition, and so this is just 8 of the 9. But what I wanted to do was just kind of highlight the top 3 malnutrition indicators that are affecting Ghana. The first is stunting. The second is anemia in women, where actually the only other country that has a higher rate of anemia is Senegal. And also overweight, prevalence, and obesity as well. And so there are plenty of different causes to malnutrition in Ghana, but these are just some of the few. So the poor infant and young child feeding practices feeds into stunting and wasting. Also, Ghana is becoming rich, but they're also adopting westernization of diets and lifestyles, so that's contributing to the obesity and overweight. And also, the Ghana diet is not really conducive of a lot of iron intake. We like our stews, we like our plantains, and they're not really iron rich. So there's an inadequate dietary of iron, which leads to anemia as well too, and also some other micronutrient deficiencies. And then last but not least, children born to thin mothers, which can lead to stunting and wasting. And so I'll talk briefly about some of the nutritional interventions in Ghana. So Ghana's nutritional policy actually begun soon after independence, which was 1957. And so that really highlighted, the nutritional policy at that time highlighted more on education and behavior change. But this is the most recent information I could obtain. And so, as you can see, they've done a lot in terms of policy and legislative provisions. But some of the top 3, excuse me, I think I've lost track of my slides. Okay, here we go. So some of the top 3 interventions are food fortification. They have infused vitamin A into a lot of wheat flour and oil, so that has reduced vitamin A deficiency, which many of you may not know, but vitamin A, if you are lacking in vitamin A, that can lead to night blindness. Also, they have a lot of community-based management for acute malnutrition for children under 5. And then, of course, they have a lot of media outlets, so a lot of radio stations, a lot of TV programming, things like that, who that talks about good nutrition practices and diet. So this all feeds into the 4th, which is the undernutrition mentioned in national development plans and economic growth strategies. However, there's been so many resources and money that has been dumped into these interventions, but the track record has not been good so far. It's still a work in progress, as you can see. So this is the most recent information I was able to obtain. And as you can see, there's not enough people or not the right types of people in the area. So bringing people into the shared space for action. Not everyone's at the table, so the stakeholders are not there. Also ensuring coherent policy and legal framework. That's just a nice way of saying that the policies are not working and there's not enough SMART goals. Also, people are not talking, aligning actions around a common results framework, and then, which is really, really dismal, there's no monitoring and evaluation of where the money is actually going. So this kind of feeds into why malnutrition is still a big problem in Ghana. So the money, okay, let me start there. So from a policy standpoint, since I'm a policy student, the specific gaps that I feel that really need to be addressed are there's not enough money. Nutrition interventions take lots and lots of money and also takes a lot of human resources. So there's little to no investment and there's not enough reinvestment as well. And also a lot of the investments come from the outside. So once the donor decides that they want to pull out of the intervention, that's when the money stops and nothing gets continued after that. And then okay, there we go. And then also, the areas that really need it the most, such as in the rural areas of Ghana, there's not enough people there, and also the people who are there do not have the capacity to carry out these initiatives. And then also, no one's really talking to each other, so there's little to no knowledge sharing between government agencies and also some non-government agencies. And then last but not least, even though the policies are there, but they do not go far enough, so not everyone is getting the benefits. And so what can we do to push this forward? So I do feel that for the very first thing is that the money has to be there. So there needs to be money and resources available for these nutrition interventions to take place. Also, nutrition, even though it is a priority, has been a priority since independence, but it's still not the very, very top priority. And then also we need to remind ourselves that these are the beneficiaries. These are the people whose lives are at stake, the future of Ghana, and not just the children, but also the women. So we need to be relying less on outside donors and more within. So I do feel that with everything that's been happening, I do feel there is some change, but not enough. And so the next part of my presentation is going to tie it into the whole TED theme, which is why we're all here today, is to learn about how Africa can move from dependency to self-sufficiency. So everyone's kind of familiar with this image as well. As there's always some child who's alone, who's sad, he may be hungry, he may be missing his parents, we don't know. And so this whole idea that outside help, as some of the previous presenters have mentioned, is that even though it is well-intentioned, but it doesn't go far enough. And this whole idea of Band-Aid creates a cycle of handouts and not hand-ups. But the good thing is that the mindset is starting to change. And so I want to highlight 3 innovators that are doing a lot, not only in nutrition, but also just in global health in general. So the beautiful lady in the striped shirt, her name is Beatrice Bonita. She is from Uganda. She has created a startup called AFRIx. And what she has also invented is this wonderful app, which is called Demex. And what the app does is that they'll take a blood sample of a person and take a photo of it and immediately send it to the lab electronically. And within 1 to 2 hours, you will find out whether or not you have sickle cell anemia or not. And so previously, people had to wait days, sometimes weeks, before they find the diagnosis. So this is something that is very, very innovative and very, very fascinating. This next gentleman who is shaking the hand of the young lady, his name is Teddy. He's also from Uganda, and he has created a business called Raintree Farms. Raintree Farms, what they do is they actually grow moringa trees. I don't know if you're all familiar with moringa, but basically moringa produces a beautiful green leaf, and within that green leaf there's a lot of vitamins and minerals, like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, everything. And he has made it into a pill form. And what he does is he sells the pills to urban areas, but the money that he also has left over, he gives pills and other assistance to underserved areas in Uganda. And he also provides training opportunities as well. So these are all businesses in Uganda, working in Uganda. And last but not least, this is Dr. Danyo. He is from Nigeria. And the box that he's holding is called the D box. And he is also the founder of Ligan Core. And is this not coming up? There it is. So basically what the D-Box is that it is a battery-operated ventilator, because previously what he had to do was, as the doctors, he had to manually pump air into his patients. With the D-Box, the battery lasts for 24 hours. So these are all great innovations. These are all products and services that are needed in their serving in the markets that they are going for, which makes, in my mind, make them innovative. So last but not least, so just tying this all together, as I said in the beginning, nutrition is the core of health. And if there's one phrase that I want you all to take away, if you guys don't forget everything else I said, please remember this. Malnutrition is the one thing that every nation, that no country, I should say, no country is immune from. So I'll say that one more time. Malnutrition is the one thing that no country is immune from, whether it's undernutrition or overnutrition. Even here in the US, there is a growing number of people who are becoming morbidly obese and overweight. And in Ghana, there is the double burden, which is more people are becoming overweight, and then there's also still some people that are malnourished because of low birth rate and stunting. So this is something that we all should pay attention to, because I could take Ghana out of this and replace it with any other African nation, and I'm pretty sure it will be applicable to everyone. So for me, I feel that that not only Africa can feed itself, but we can also heal ourselves. So we have the power and we have the resources from within. We also need to focus on what's working and how to scale it or replicate it. Also, there needs to be some proper messaging about food and nutrition. And then also, every intervention needs to have a strategy for behavior change. And so I specifically put up there, think about tobacco use in the US. So over a half a century ago, there were, people smoking on airplanes, people smoking in cars, restaurants, but it took a lot of legislative action, medical studies, market interventions, and social interventions to reduce the use of tobacco in the US. So it is possible. It may take a long time, but it can be achieved. And last but not least, since we're all here at Duke, I figured that we here in academia, we're the best resource that could help Africa. And we have the perfect environment for reporting, doing some sort of innovation, collaboration with other schools, and testing, and assistance with implementation. So I kind of want to highlight the fact that I got most of my nutritional reporting from sources that are not even in Africa. So the International Food Policy Institute, who creates the Global Nutrition Report, their headquarters is in DC. And a lot of the information that I'm getting for my master's thesis all come from the UN, World Bank, or FAO. So even though I was able to get some surveys and everything from Ghana specifically, but more needs to be done. And I feel that we can do that, especially in schools. So I feel like we provide the perfect opportunity for that. So that concludes my presentation.
Oh,